Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen. I mean, this is a year old, but I think it's probably even more important now than it was a year ago. Why the rate of single men in the United States looking for dates
Ooh.
has declined. So it's not just not having dates, that men are just not even looking for dates now. So I thought we should watch this. And before anyone freaks out about it being CNN, this isn't politics. This is a reporter
This is
on
real
one
life.
side talking about a report from the Pew Research. So let's just break this down.
Last week, I delved here into recent data from the CDC suggesting major problems with regard to the mental health of our adolescents, surges in depression and suicidal ideation, especially true for our girls. This week, I found cause to worry about young men. This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single, most young women are not.
Let that
The
sink
story
in.
reported that as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S.
They're on
adults
Amazon.
are neither married, living with a partner, nor
Well, that was funny.
engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single. Now, look at the
Look at this right here. Right? So, men ages 18 to 29, 63%. Women, 34%. These are single,
Mm.
right? These are percentage of adults who say they're single. So 63% of the guys are single, and literally half, or almost half of the women. What do you think is going on there? Are they just dating older men, or are they dating other
Uh,
women?
they're all lesbians,
They're
yes.
all
Case
lesbians
closed.
now.
Now, next episode, I will give the answer to the cure for cancer.
Now,
So, what else? The questions you have?
let's see if we add a six there, that becomes 40. So 66% of women have aren't single at this age range. So do they have multiple boyfriends? Are women creating a roster now?
Well, what is that? What the percentage of men who are single go down then?
No, because they would
They have
only be
multiple boyfriends.
women would only be dating the top tier men, right? If you're a crappy guy, uh, you're not going to get a date regardless, right? But if women become, I don't know, polyamorous or whatever, or have multiple uh, boyfriends, then the top guys will be seeing multiple chicks, which is normal, right? But for the first time in a long time, or maybe ever in human history, chicks are seeing multiple dudes. I think that I don't know what's causing this disparity. It's just something I wanted to like talk to you guys about because we're not quite in that age range unless we are. If that's important for you, wink. You know, go ahead and like and subscribe.
We're all 12.
We're all
these
So
numbers.
we're not.
34% of women,
We just smoke a
twice
lot
as
of
many, a
cigarettes.
whopping
we're just vape
63% of
life.
men. What explains
Yeah.
that? I pulled the Pew study and I read with interest. Turns out since 2019, the share of single men who say they're looking for dates or a relationship has declined from 61% to 50%. In 2018, 28% of men ages 18 to 30 reported
So like guys are giving up. That's what it looks like, right? I mean, if we go back 50, it was 61% in 2019, and now it's 50, or then it was 50% in 2022, like an 11% drop. I mean, granted, there was a pandemic, but if there was a global pandemic where a human existential crisis, which is what the media tried to make it out to be, wouldn't you want to have more babies? I know we were having less babies, but wouldn't that make you inclined to seek companionship rather than to not find companionship at all? Like, what do you think's going on here? Are the women? Have you guys heard of hoflation? Has anyone heard of hoflation here?
Hoflation. Oh, no.
Inflation.
Hoflation, yeah. So we've all heard of inflation, and we know what shrinkflation is. But hoflation is the idea uh, that you need to
Inflation
be.
of hope.
Yeah, it's the inflation of women's value, right? Your grandmother could prepare an entire Thanksgiving meal, could sew your buttons on your pants, and just a laundry list, a literal laundry list of skills and skill sets that our parents and grandparents had that we no longer have. Myself is included. I'm not a hoe, right? But like, I would love to know what my grandfather knew, right? To be as handy as he was around the house or a nuclear facility. That would be really cool. But the idea behind hoflation is that these women have inflated their values through filters and Instagram, while in reality deflating their worth because they're not able to do as much. File taxes, cook dinners, be feminine, stuff like that. So that's the idea behind hoflation. So I was wondering maybe if some of the guys have just given up. I mean, this is before Helldivers 2 came out, so it's not like video games were good yet. If the girls were just not worth pursuing anymore. Just something to think about.
For dates or a relationship has declined from 61% to 50%. In 2018, 28% of men ages 18 to 30 reported they'd had no sex in the past year, compared with 18% of women of that age. The Hill report said men in their 20s.
I mean, can we be a little happy that we don't have more mass shooters? Like, that's crazy. Like, a third of men 18 to 30 haven't had sex in the last year, and everyone's not getting shot up every day. Do you like just the teenage angst? I remember being 15.
Of that age. The Hill report said men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts all of young America. Among the causes, among the factors, a reliance on social media and online porn. But also, more young women are hooking up with each other or dating and marrying slightly older.
Nice. There you go, CNN.
Are getting more choosy. Other troubling statistics about men come from a 2021 study from the Survey Center for American Life. They found the share of men who have 6 or more close friends, which in 1990 was 55%, by 2021 had shrunk by half.
Guys.
3%?
Guys. This is what you need to run a successful D&D campaign. 6 friends. You need 6 friends to run a D&D campaign and have a grand old time.
Oh, dude.
And now, look at this.
Your D&D campaign can become your enemies, though. Just like playing a game of Monopoly.
Well,
friends can quickly become enemies.
that's very true.
But these are like close
and
friends.
Quite literally. Yeah, these are close friends, right? Where, someone doesn't get mad at you. And, maybe, I don't know, have I experienced this kind of closeness? Last time I tried to prosper in a campaign, I tried to buy a harbor so I could start a business because I saw the times were changing and I need to roll out capitalism into Baldur's Gate. And the Dungeon Master sent me to prison for a couple of days. So, you need 6 close friends to run a D&D campaign.
Which in 1990 was 55%.
Imagine if that just wasn't like a part of your childhood, right? Just imagine not having like 6 guys you can hang out. Like, you can't play, pick up football or pick up basketball without, a 3v3 is so much fun, right? We were talking about last week, check out the podcast, how much fun split screen was, right? Being in the same room,
and
right?
Watching.
And shooting Robbie in the face, and then Robbie just punches you in the arm because that fucking kill was so sick, or you were screen watching, right? Like that was it back in the day. Now, I bet men are close with 600 plus online friends from the Call of Duty lobby, probably.
2021 had shrunk by half.
Look at this: men with 0 close friends, 3%.
Now it's 15.
Now it's 15.
Your face.
Yeah, now it's 15. Yeah,
okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, let me move your.
15% of men in 2021 identify as having 0 close friends. That's after a global pandemic.
Guys, it's called deodorant.
No, it's
not good. Life will afford you more opportunities when you don't smell like a butt.
Or act like an ass. But
act and smell like. Don't act or smell like an ass.
Yeah, just get Axe, right? You could probably just Axe all of those problems with Axe body spray. Wait, Forrest, what's your catchphrase? Forrest, what's your favorite one?
B-O-D for me. Check out that bod.
God, dude, Forrest has been saying that for maybe 20 years.
I've never
Since
once-
day one
I've
from the
never once
commercial.
bought- And I've never once bought bod.
None at all. But as soon as Dieter comes up, I'm like, I know he's gonna say it.
They're like the most homoerotic commercials. It's just a bunch of guys with their shirts off, playing basketball, and I mean, women are looking at them.
Well, it's because women buy deodorant. Women buy deodorant for their husbands. That's it. It's like, why are they sexy? Why are the women sexy for lingerie? Right? It's because men buy women lingerie.
I want your bod.
Meanwhile, those with literally zero close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%.
God, I hope that's not because they all died during the pandemic.
Disconnect can have catastrophic consequences for young men. Quote, in the worst case scenario, the young American man's social disconnect can have tragic consequences. Young men commit suicide at 4 times the rate of young women. Younger women are largely responsible for rising rates of mass shootings, a trend that some researchers link to their growing social isolation.
What? I was watching this show. Oh, Veep. That's it. The last season of Veep, Ryan, the giant stooge, is like angry at his biological dad. He's like, I'm so mad I could go shoot up a mall right now. Excuse me. And I think like that is not a feeling I've ever related to. If you have, talk to somebody, get some help before it's too late. Comment down below. Hang out with us. You really, if you need some friends, Zig Ziglar, I think this was Zig Ziglar, once said, if you go out looking to find new friends, you won't find any. But if you go out looking to be someone's friend, you'll come home a very popular person. So I thought, just the moral of that is, when you're being selfish, when you're looking to find friends, like, it's not going to work. But when you want to help someone else out, like a friendship will bloom. What were you saying, Robbie?
Yeah, that was just agreeing with that.
It's beautiful, right? I love Zig Ziglar.
Nice.
Well, those words reminded me of a conversation that I had over a year ago right here on CNN with NYU professor Scott
With Zig Ziglar.
Oh, what an excellently placed ad. Do you guys know who not Zig Ziglar?
I thought you had YouTube Premium.
I do, but
here.
it doesn't go through Discord for some reason.
Are we not recording right now?
No, we're not recording. Yeah, no, it's just not. That'd be so bad.
Wait, I can't tell which bald man's which.
So, all right, on the left is the CNN guy we've been listening to. Not the guy on the right. The guy on the right is Scott Galloway. Have you guys ever heard of this gentleman?
Yeah, I've seen him. He's a cool dude. He's like
I
a professor of marketing.
Love Scott. Yeah.
He gives a lot of like self-help advice.
He's good. He's taken He's
been on I think Bill Maher before.
Yeah, Real Time with Bill Maher.
A lot of these talk shows, but I think like a lot of his advice boils down to he gives like investing advice, just like life advice, like you want to make sure you exercise every day because if you can endure physical hardship, then like mental hardship and spiritual hardship are going to be a lot easier to contend with.
Be a piece of cake, right? For those, I always say for those who need a male role model, and instead of looking for someone like Andrew Tate, which, to be honest, I don't know that much about Andrew Tate. I'm not well versed. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but there seems to be a lot of toxicity around that. Whereas almost everything I've seen Scott say, right, is true to a fundamental core, right, an objective truth. And he's just, let's listen to what he has to say here. But he's just a very smart man. I think he's a good role model for for the girls out there, the 3% listening, according to the YouTube demographics or whatever. If your boyfriend's starting to look towards Andrew Tate, steer him towards Scott Galloway instead. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Or steer him towards Zeitgeist Zealots.
Steer him towards us. We don't have the advice.
Have an intro cut scene that you make. Just steer him to Zeitgeist
Zealots.
I have advice to give. Even if it's a quickie, wrap that dickie. Or you can't make love without the one-fingered glove.
Those are all terrible 1950s slogans. I love them all.
And an online dating, which has doubled. Now it's about half of relationships. And the top 20% of men in terms of it's about have a group of
Scott Galloway.
Here we go.
But the issue is when you have a group of men, the lower half of attractiveness of men and online dating, which has doubled. Now it's about half of relationships. And the top 20% of men in terms of attractiveness get about 60% of the interest. You end up with a group of men that are more prone to conspiracy theory, more prone to misogynistic content, more prone to not believe in climate change. So this is the American story.
The cause of not believing in climate change.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Is he wearing a green suit?
He is wearing a green suit. Look, his advice is much better than his. Look, this outfit looks terrible.
His advice is much better than his sense of style.
His advice is much better than his sense. I think it's like even like a gray tie. It looks awful. It's an awful.
Did he win? Did he win a golf tournament?
I think so. He's just the master at advice. But I'm
the
sorry.
Master of the Masters.
Is he saying here that without women as a distraction, that men can focus on the real issues, conspiracy theories, looking into climate change, stuff like this? Like, what is he saying here?
It makes them young men
not believe in climate change.
Well.
Yeah, sorry, you haven't gotten laid. Oh, is that because women are so fucking liberal that you have to believe in climate change to get laid? So, like, is that what's happening? Is that what he's saying here?
This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
It is, though. It is. Comment down
As
below.
always,
Oh,
Professor Galloway
much better. Here we go.
Back with me now is Scott
No green
Galloway.
suit.
He's a professor of marketing
He
at
learned the error of
NYU
his
Stern
ways a year
School of
later.
Business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's the host of the Professor G podcast. And
one of my favorite things about people in general is just not being a hypocrite. All right, if you're going to talk about health, be healthy. And Scott is.
Multiple best-selling books, most recently.
And he has a ton of books.
America in 100 Charts. Scott, thanks for returning. Hasn't the advantage always been to those with the looks and/or the money? What's changed?
Filters.
First off, Mike, I just want to say thank you for raising this issue a year ago when a lot of media companies were afraid to talk about this for fear of it being pro-men was somehow being anti-women. Look, this is returning to the natural order of things for the majority of.
Can we say that, right? It's okay. Like, men need so much help now. Like, we need to be pro-men, and everyone needs to be okay with that, right? When the women needed help, right? When we needed equality, we had a full focus on the women, right? And we brought all that up, and now they're just
caused this.
Now they're killing it, right? Their college graduate levels went from like 0%, right, up to 60%. Now they're out graduating men, and they're outperforming men in like a lot of the S&P 100 jobs. So I think it's important to be able to raise awareness and to focus on an issue like men without taking away someone else's light. Does that make sense? Right? Like, you can still focus on.
You hear that, Kathleen Kennedy?
Yes, Kathleen Kennedy. You don't need to make everything gay.
Of history, a small percentage of men have had.
I mean, you don't need to put a woman. I mean, yeah, put a woman in everything. Probably Lord of the Rings too.
The majority of the mating opportunities, but in America, we decided to make a huge investment in what would probably be the greatest innovation in history, and that is in the middle class. From 1945 to 1947, 7 million men returned from war were discharged from the service, and we decided to give them the GI Bill, subsidized mortgages. We saw education rates go from 5 to 45%. They were valued, and we had such a strong.
That sent hundreds of people like you to their deaths. Well, too bad.
Yeah, too bad.
A manufacturing base that you had massive marriage and household formation, and some men were seen as more economically and emotionally viable. And you've seen the reverse happen with the offshoring of much of our manufacturing base, with a society that quite frankly doesn't value young men. When we talk about problems with people of color or women, we see it as a systemic societal problem. When we see problems or the stats that you just mentioned, we see it as accountability, or that men just need to level up. But married households and household formation are better citizens. They vote. They save at twice the rate. They're less likely to commit crimes. And we have fewer and fewer viable men. We have a dearth of economically and emotionally viable men. But the middle class is an accident. Unless you invest in it, it doesn't happen. Eisenhower decided to invest $500 billion in a national highway project that created tons of jobs. We have, and by the way, the tax rate back then was 91%.
Dude, there is something we have. It's such a foreign concept for us and for 90% of our listeners. A high-paying factory job. How dope does that sound in 2024? Right, like go to work, right, at your, getting your giant
after like
400
years or 20 years.
Yeah, get go to work in your 400 lot parking lot, right? And you always park in the same spot. And then you get out. Exactly, right? And then you go into your factory and then you make a fucking living. Right? Making and manufacturing and producing and running this factory and doing whatever you're doing in the factory, like a high paying factory job working. Like it's just like it's just so hard to even fathom.
Yeah,
these
it's
days.
Like you didn't have to like get 30,000 or more in debt after high school to get an education or degree.
No.
You could go ahead and get a mortgage because now people can't, like, fresh out of college, can't buy houses. You know, even though they have jobs, they can't afford a house for a few years. But they got to pay off debt plus save up for a down payment. So they're gonna take longer to pay off the mortgage and build equity. But like, yeah, back in the day, get a factory job, automatically get a mortgage, start building equity,
buy a car, buy a $3,000 car, buy a $15,000 house.
Yeah, all the while send your kids to school. Well, not school, but have all your necessities paid for. Maybe
No, you could pay. You could pay for your 6 kids to go to college because college was $150 back then. It was $150 to get a college fund education.
I saw this movie, The Holdovers, and one of the plot points is like this woman's son had to go to Vietnam because he couldn't get money for college. And I'm just like, really? Pretty sure even if you had to get like even if you take like
go to Vietnam for your college.
Basically, because he wanted to get the GI Bill.
Yeah.
So, but he could have probably like in
the Coast Guard.
He could have very easily just like gotten student loans and paid them back easily. I think in those days, because a student loan back then was not like as gigantic as it was now.
It wasn't. It wasn't fraud. Yeah, it wasn't fucking fraud back in the day. That is the most horseshit. Like, I am, not to get political, not a huge fan of student loan forgiveness since I worked 3 to 4 jobs my entire collegiate career to come out debt free. And the first thing I did with my wife is to pay off her student loan because the interest rates are phenomenal. I think it's an absolute tragedy what's going on. But I forgot what point I was making, so let's just click next on the video.
Raise money and we redistributed in social programs that made young people more economically viable.
And then, Scott, you toss in the influence of social media and how relationships today.
Side note, can we just talk about how different head formation is for being bald? You got the guy on the left here who has a literal egg as a head, and then on the right, Scott Galloway, who just looks like right now on the positive, he looks like an angry guy who's waiting for you to finish with the dumbbells that he wants to use.
They don't come from.
You notice being bald is more and more popular now?
More and more popular or more and more prevalent? That's the question.
It's stressful out there, Rob.
Something like a third of men are bald. We'll take that sponsorship.
Everyone's stressed out.
Yeah, right. They're just losing their hair left and right. Yeah, it's probably
brought to you by Rogaine.
Yeah, or Keeps for him. Whatever, Blue Chew. Helix mattress. I need a new bed.
That further accelerates this issue. Am I right?
Oh, it's been the chaser to it. I mean, to have an honest conversation about this, we have to be honest, and that is that men and women have different mating criteria. 1/4 of women,
Mm-hmm.
1/4 of men saying economic viability is a key criteria in a mate. 3/4 of women say that is important. And when you're on,
let me ask you this, Matt, you're married, but let's say you're not, right? Your wife doesn't listen to the podcast. let's say you're strapping
PA.
young entrepreneurial, right? You're in your late 20s, early 30s, or whatever, and you meet the most beautiful woman. Oh, spoiler alert! It is your wife because she does listen. Do you care how much money your wife makes? Like if you see the most gorgeous woman, your wife working at Starbucks, she hands you the coffee, and your fingertips touch, and there's chemistry, there's lightning, right? And she calls your name out, Matt, right? And you touch the fingertips, and there's chemistry there. Do you care how much she's making?
No, not really. I think when my wife and I first met, she was working at Target.
Yeah.
So,
What about this?
really.
What about our
Go
single?
find one.
What about our single lads out there? Robbie, do you care? Like, are you like, all right, well,
If it's someone that'll like have a good relationship with, it's not a major factor.
it's
for
not
me.
important, right? You know, like, oh, she needs to make $70,000 a year to support my gaming habit because these microtransactions are out of control. You know, there's nothing like that. Forrest, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think if both partners are working, you can definitely pay off the house quicker. You can go on more
Facts.
vacations.
Facts.
You can definitely save up for college easier. So, I mean, that's going to put a whole lot less stress on a relationship. I think people can say that finances aren't important in a relationship, but like as a relationship lasts for several years, they become extremely important because I think communication about if you're not good on your finances, that means there's a lack of communication in the relationship, which is a major red flag.
I would say so.
But I mean, I don't need a wife that makes six figures or.
But
millions.
if
But,
she
at least
did, you'd be going to Kirk's.
but at least
Turks and Caicos.
Bonus.
Yeah.
But at least I think that'll put, and also she has her own sort of life, and there should be some independence between both partners
No, absolutely.
in a relationship. I feel so. I think.
Ooh, what a mature response, Argo.
I think a lot of what women are attracted to are men that are self-sufficient and have their own lives, and that their entire life isn't there.
Independent. You know what I mean? Independent men.
Well, that men's sole basis for happiness isn't the relationship itself, but they have other, and I think men
that's
want
healthy on
women.
both points, on both parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking for independent men, good job, ladies. 15% of men in 2021 don't have a close friend. So if you're looking for independence, that's coming. That is trending upwards.
A two-dimensional format where now it's one.
That was really insightful for us. I really, really like that take. Because you're right. Wow. If I meet the love of my life, like my wife, in a Starbucks or a Target or a Chili's, I don't care, right? But if she was a hedge fund manager, I probably would be doing this podcast on a private jet right now.
And also, that being said,
used to be one.
I will say
attraction is non-negotiable. I think
for
attracted to a girl,
for
I'm
men,
gonna care what she does for a living.
Women, I think attraction for women's a little more negotiable, right? I think it's more about what you provide. Like they'll find attractiveness, they'll find you attractive. Whereas men do really need to be visually attracted to the woman. I think
Larry David put it very succinctly on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's like, men don't care what they do; they just care what they look like. And for women, it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's damn Larry David, so good.
1 and 4 just a few years ago. It gets distilled down to a small number of criteria. Specifically for men, it's does she look attractive, and specifically for men, it's
we're just saying
able to signal his ability to garner resources in the future.
Look at that.
An average attractive male on Tinder gets swiped less than 1% of the time, and there's.
All right, if I can low-key confess this for a second, because my wife never watches our YouTube channel, at 6'3", with a degree in mathematics, I had no idea what my dating value was back in the day. I had Tinder at the glory day of Tinder, the very beginning of Tinder, before they started charging. I remember We had a deleting my dating apps party with my close friends at the time, where we had a party. I just deleted all my
You have a
dating
party
apps.
for everything.
Well, at
You
the
have a
time,
party. You have
yeah,
a party when you unclog your toilet.
I do. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's quite a momentous occasion. It takes a lot of effort, and with good effort, should be rewarded.
Did you have a party when you're got out of your cast or something like you had your surgery?
For my
Like
knee?
for my celebration? Yeah, I'm gonna walk around naked all day. That's my party.
That was my party, yeah. And the cops were not too happy. Neither was the local library. But
Yeah,
I
you're
got out
doing
of my
the
cast.
scene from you're doing the scene from Austin Powers. Just like walking around the hotel naked. Yeah. So I mean,
3 men on Tinder for every one
party. It's hilarious.
But what I would have done,
yeah.
I would have just put on my profile, I would just to put a picture of me smiling, thumbs up, and I just would have put
Naked.
6'3", and that's it. I wouldn't have put any kind of fancy bio, no clever puns. Just 666 check mark, check mark, check mark. That's all you fucking need. And then like I just watch the Tinder dates just roll in.
So 6.
Damn.
All right. So 6. So 6 for 6 feet tall.
6 for 6.
6 for 6-figure income, and
Yeah.
6 for 6 inches of your dick. Okay.
Yeah.
woman.
Those are the minimum requirements. So I shared a video with Robbie. I can post it on the Twitter if people want me to. But it was such a great video of these two girls. They're like getting stopped downtown for like one of the late night like drunk interviews or whatever. And she's talking about, no, I shared it with the whole group. She's talking about how her boyfriend is a cashier at Walmart making $300,000 a year because these girls are so fucking stupid and they've got such high standards that these guys are just able to lie to these girls and be like they have to lie. Like, oh no, like I work at Walmart, but I make $300,000 a year checking out groceries. Like how
I run my own section of Walmart.
Yeah, dude, like how
Own my own
dumb
Walmart
are
building.
you? Like the video is so wild. Like you see these girls and you're like, oh no, this isn't fake. These boyfriends are some chads. These guys are fucking lying straight up.
So you've distilled it. You've taken out one of the key components of mating dynamics, and that is vibe, humor, body language, pheromones, the ability to be, quite frankly, a little bit persistent in the pursuit of a romantic relationship. We have no third places anymore, no places to meet. People aren't going to bars. They aren't.
That's a good point, right? Can't get a second impression on
Like a
swiping
bunch of
left.
stuff.
Sports league. They aren't
Bunch
going
of
to
stuff
church.
got
They aren't
shut down.
Right?
even going to work. So it gets distilled down to very one or two dimensional attributes. And the reality is women are much choosier than men, and they can apply those screens, and they allocate all of their attention to a small number of men that results in just essentially at the end of the day, a lack of opportunities. Chris Williams summarized it perfectly. He called it the high heels effect. In the last 40 years, more women have graduated from college than men, and they're not interested in mating with non-college grads. They now own more homes, single women, than single men. So what you have is women say they won't.
Women own more homes than men while still having this pay gap. Are they taking on more debt, or is this the phenomenon we like to call divorce?
Date anyone shorter than them.
What do you guys think? It's divorce? It's definitely divorce, right? They win the house in the divorce. That's how all these single women, right? Like these are conflicting narratives here.
I think women are a bit more financially wise than men sometimes. I think
maybe before the advent of Amazon. No, two-day shipping.
Despite the pay gap, I think women are additionally more frugal than men. I think there was like this documentary that Michael Moore did, and it was like I think not on the financial crisis, but there was like one bank in Iceland that did not go under in 2008, and it was all run by women.
Interesting.
Because women are just more smarter with money. I mean,
well, they can be less risk averse.
They take less risks than men with money, and like the reason the 08 financial crisis happened was people were too risky with money.
Yep.
Hey! Just because I like spending my money on Funko Pops, all right, does not make me irresponsible.
No, you would have to buy avocado toast.
Plus Funko Pop.
So
500 plus
I
Funko
think,
Pops.
I think women are just more frugal.
No, 50% of them.
Comment down below. What do you think? Do you think women are more frugal? My wife would disagree.
Effectively, what you have metaphorically over the last 40 years is women have been getting taller and taller, and men have been getting shorter and shorter. How many of us have said, I know a ton of great single women, they can't find a date? That's not true. They can't find a date. They can't find a man they find economically or emotionally viable. If we don't make a massive investment in young people and make more economically and emotionally viable men, we're going to see a lack of household formation. We're going to see a decline in the middle class. And we're going to see, quite frankly, just a lot of young men who are terrible citizens.
So is the answer to fix this economically, and who will champion this conversation?
We see that already, right? I mean, have you guys driven lately? Everyone's an asshole on the road.
You felt obliged to compliment me at the outset.
That's because their wives aren't sitting in the passenger seat yelling at them for being assholes while they're driving. That's what always keeps me in check.
It's because we're making people be in the office 5 days a week. They're making people like commute over an hour.
Bring back work from home, or make housing more affordable so we can live closer to our house. Like, you shouldn't have to commute 2 hours a day for work, right? That's losing so much of your fucking life.
Because we had engaged on this a year ago, and here I am revisiting.
However, stay away from the 15-minute cities. Those seem to be disastrous.
And I read into that the fact that you think that it's politically incorrect even to have this dialogue.
When you're seen as advocating for men because of the 300,000-year head start we've had, it seems somehow it's anti-female. There's a lot of very unfortunate misogyny online that is masquerading as being pro-men. A lot of TikTok celebrities who talk about advocating for men, it's just thinly veiled misogyny. What do we need? We need more freshman seats in colleges. We need a massive investment in vocational training. Yep. We need to figure out a way to get more permitting for housing so young people can afford housing.
Roofing.
We need to recognize our economic policies.
Imagine, dude, at some point in our nation's fucking history, right? 1700s, 1800s, 1600s, somewhere, right? Every man knew how to fucking build a house because they were all building houses. That was Jamestown was, right? You settled a new place, you had to fucking build houses. At some point, most of the men in this country knew how to build houses. This is what I was going to earlier, like how I wish I knew what my grandfather knew, right? Like if their skill sets carried downwards, then fuck it, we could just, hey, I'm not going to spend $400,000 buying a house. Oh, I can just build my own house if we still have that skill set, but we don't.
Literally allocate wealth from young people to old people. The percentage of wealth that young people control under the age of 40 has been cut from 12% to 6%. Ugh. These are concerted, deliberate decisions. We did away with the child tax credit. We don't want to make it any easier for people to have kids, but seniors just got their largest cost of living adjustment increase in history. We have made the decision to make...
I'm going to replay this. I actually do remember this interview. I watched it over a year ago when it came out because I remember him talking about this. And it hit so fucking hard. So I'm going to replay this.
Deliberate decisions. We did away with the child tax credit. We don't want to make it any easier for people to have kids, but seniors just got their largest cost of living adjustment increase in history. We have made the decision to make it harder and more expensive for people to find each other, for people to mate, and for people to have children. And without children, we turn...
So we subsidize getting old and we tax being young, basically is what he's saying. We got rid of the child tax credit, right? And we increase Social Security. Like, this is what happens when geriatrics are in charge of making all the rules, right? Like, who makes that decision? Congress. And what is Congress made up of? Fucking old ass people. They're all 60, 70, 80, and 90 years old.
Both in the public and private sector too, because it's the people who want people in the office 5 days a week. These decisions are being made by older career who've been in the company their entire lives,
right? Who
don't understand the needs of young professionals. So they're making them come in the office 5 days a week. Work-life balance is shit. So.
Usually five, maybe 6 days a week, right? And there's something to it because there is such a large disconnect because the CEO can just come and go as he please, whereas you have to sit there in your desk.
Live in the city.
Yeah, and they can live in the city. And is the city dangerous? No worries, right? If you're like the Wall Street bankers, right? They hired, like Goldman Sachs hired security guards for their employees to make it a work, right? Instead of just instead of taking like the trains or living somewhere close, like and having a safe environment. It's wild in New York.
Japan and Italy, and that is we go into population decline and our economy goes into decline. We are about
Taxes.
to become a society by the turn of the century. There will be 8 times as many people over the age of 60 and half as many kids under the age of 5. Nursery schools will become these strange situations.
I heard a stat recently, yesterday, that 7-year-olds are 25 times richer than they were 40 years ago. Mind blowing.
7-year-olds?
7-year-olds. I don't even know how that's possible. Crypto, grandmothers, lemonade stands. I don't know. 7-year-olds are something like 20 to 25 times richer than they were 40 years ago, whereas 35-year-olds were 70% less. I'll try to throw this out if I can find it. I think that was Bill Maher.
Let's
finish this up.
Staring through fences at these creatures they don't see in the wild called children. Is this the world we want? Do we want a lack of kids? Do we want a lack of ability to create households? The happiest, most prosperous, most purposeful people in America are middle-class families. And we have made a concerted decision to punch it in the gut and make it harder for that type of family formation. And we're going to lose prosperity and we're going to lose purpose.